The campus beauty secretly took over 1,000 photos of me with her phone, and she always loved to steal sips of my leftover bubble tea. But every time I confessed to her, she would reject me. I thought she really hated me, until the day I found Grace's phone. I discovered her wallpaper was a picture of me, and she had labeled me as husband in her contacts. Only then did I realize the campus beauty had fallen for me long ago. Her cold rejections were just so she could enjoy the feeling of me chasing after her. So I applied for a study abroad exchange program. On the eve of my departure, the school organized a final exam. I had barely sat down when Grace walked in with Sean, who was also pursuing her. The two of them entered together. They were whispering about something intimate. Grace wore a gentle smile on her lips, raising her hand to straighten Sean's school uniform. Only I knew. She was doing all this deliberately for me to see. She was intentionally being intimate with another guy, just to make me jealous, to give me more motivation to chase after her. If this were before, I would still feel heartbroken. But now seeing this scene, I only found it ridiculous. The exam started quickly. I no longer paid attention to anyone, but just as the test began, Sean threw a note onto my desk. Before I could figure out what was happening, the teacher, who had just turned around, scolded me. Before the exam, I emphasized repeatedly that you could do poorly, but your character cannot be questionable. Absolutely no cheating. Ethan, you knowingly violated this rule. Your score is cancelled. Only then did I realize what Sean was plotting, but I didn't want to take this lying down. I immediately stood up and suggested checking the surveillance. Unfortunately, because the teaching building had a power outage that morning, the classroom cameras hadn't been turned on in time. Looking at Sean's expression shift from smugness to panic, I really couldn't swallow this injustice. Grace was sitting right next to Sean. She had seen everything. The teacher didn't want to wrongfully accuse anyone, so he immediately called Grace over. The teaching building at Tsinghua was funded by Grace's family. Grace didn't need to please anyone. She was known for being aloof and righteous, so her words carried tremendous authority among all the teachers and students. After hearing the whole story, Grace looked up at me, then said coolly that Sean wasn't the one cheating. With those words, I was instantly crushed. Teacher Zhao immediately believed her. He looked at me with a cold expression. I stood there, feeling like I was falling into an icy abyss. I thought that when faced with right and wrong, Grace would stick to her principles. That's why I mentioned her name. But I never expected that she would actually, having witnessed everything firsthand, give false testimony for Sean. Any explanation now would be pale and powerless. I could only force down my tears, took one deep look at Grace, and left without saying a word. But seeing my reddened eyes, Grace suddenly panicked. She instinctively chased after me and blocked my path. Ethan, I know Sean was wrong about this, but he's thin-skinned. I don't want him to be gossiped about by others. She didn't even say sorry, just focused on making excuses for Sean. I began to doubt whether the photos I saw that day were just a dream. I looked at her with a bitter smile, my voice trembling with anger. So this is your reason for helping him slander me? He can't handle gossip, but I can. Grace, do you think that because I've confessed to you 99 times, my face is as thick as a city wall, and I'm already strong enough to fear no rumors? Seeing me like this, Grace's left eyelid twitched. She grabbed my hand directly. That's not what I meant. It's just one exam. You can still make up the credits. I'll find a way later to make up for the injustice you suffered today. How can you make it up to me when you don't even like me? Hearing my sarcastic tone, Grace's heart raced with anxiety. She almost blurted out her true feelings. Who says I don't like you? But as soon as she started speaking, she realized something was wrong, and quickly stopped herself. Trust me, on your 100th confession, I'll make it up to you. Grace, she almost spelled out that she would definitely say yes. She wouldn't have shown so many flaws before. Now she was just too emotional to think straight. My heart had already turned cold. I shook off her hand. Then you better start tearing off calendar pages, and wait for that last day. Seeing me pull away my hand, Grace's voice finally softened. Okay, 3 more days. I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. 3 days before departure, the apartment I'd been trying to sell for half a month finally sold. The agent came over with the contract. I signed it quickly. In 3 days I would move out. These few days, I would clean up everything in the house so the new residents could move in. After the agent noted the date, I walked him to the elevator. But when the elevator opened, Grace stepped out carrying 2 bags. She stared at the agent for a moment, very politely said hello. The agent responded in a daze. After the elevator went down, I turned to leave. Grace suddenly called out to me, handing over the bags in her hands. I happened to be passing by. Bought too much, can't finish it all. Would you like to try some? I glanced over, and found it was my favorite pastries. This shop was in the east of the city, a 2-hour round trip. Plus, you had to wait in line for an hour to buy anything. She had deliberately gone to buy my favorite snacks, and found an excuse to bring them over, obviously trying to apologize for yesterday's incident. But I no longer needed her apology. I said nothing and just took them. After getting home, I casually tossed them aside. The bag containing the pastries landed precisely in the trash can. 2 days before departure, I spent several $1,000s at a print shop, printing 10,000 palm-size cards. Back at the dorm, I asked my roommates to climb to the top of the main building on the 3rd and scatter these cards over the plaza. My roommates all knew what had been happening recently. Hearing that I wouldn't give up, they all tried to persuade me, Ethan, maybe you should just let it go. Forget about it. Grace has treated you like that. Why do you torment yourself like this? He really went too far. He trampled on your feelings so cruelly, though I had already seen through it all. Hearing my friends care about me so much still sent warmth flowing through my heart. I shook my head calmly. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Just help me scatter them. I've already hired a cleaning company to handle the aftermath. I'm not planning to confess. What I really want to do is say goodbye. Hearing this, my roommates were all stunned. They couldn't figure out what I was up to. After saying a few more words of thanks, I turned and left, watching my figure fade into the distance. My roommates opened the cardboard box and pulled out one of the cards. It had only one sentence written on it: Ethan will never love Grace again. The day before departure, I went to school to finish all the paperwork and returned home. I began packing my luggage. I had only moved here 6 months ago. There wasn't much stuff, but most of it was related to Grace. I found several boxes and threw all these things into them. The scarf I spent half a month knitting for Grace, I cut into broken threads. Every love letter I stayed up nights writing for him. I fed them all into the paper shredder. The moment I threw the boxes in the trash, everything between Grace and me would become the past. In the end, only 2 sets of clothes remained in the house. What Grace wore when we first met, that white shirt, and those black loose jeans. I lit a match and burned them to ashes. As the smoke rose, soon only gray ashes remained on the floor. But when I stood up, I saw Grace, looking at me with complete shock. I'm just cleaning up some unnecessary trash. I said this coolly, then turned and went upstairs. On departure day, at dawn, I was awakened by commotion across the street. I had just picked up my phone when I saw notifications constantly jumping in the status bar. I stared for quite a while before realizing all the messages came from a group chat of over 20 people. A year ago, to understand Grace's preferences, I had secretly joined and forgot to leave. Grace didn't know I was in there. The ones chatting enthusiastically early in the morning were Grace's roommates. Grace got up so early. Were you too excited to sleep all night? Obviously. She's been bustling around since 11 p.m. last night. Are you really going to accept Ethan's confession this time? Scrolling to this point, my hand paused. Below was a long message from Grace. It's not about accepting. We've always had mutual feelings. It's only natural that we get together. Stop asking these pointless questions. Help me pick which outfit looks better today. This one or this one. Seeing the dozens of outfit photos he posted, the group chat exploded. Oh my God, making such a big deal out of this. Is this still our aloof campus beauty who never shows emotions? Grace, this is the first time I've seen you care so much. Do you really like that Ethan so much? A chorus of amazement. Grace only replied with one line: I like him very much. I can't live without him in this lifetime. Seeing those words, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Many memories flashed through my mind. Seeing this confession of like, I only found it absurd and ridiculous. Liked me, so rejected my 99 confessions, making me the laughingstock in everyone's eyes. Liked me, so treated me with cold indifference, deliberately getting intimate with other guys to provoke me. Liked me, so twisted the truth and slandered me, trampling on my sincere heart in every way. If this was his idea of liking someone, I really couldn't bear it, nor did I deserve such treatment. The group messages refreshed faster and faster. Several girls living on campus posted some live photos. It was barely past 7 a.m., but the plaza was already crowded with people. Students and outsiders alike, teachers and students were all there. Someone was even selling bottled water nearby, peanuts and grilled sausages. They all came to watch my 100th confession. Grace, hurry over here. Don't let the confession start. With you, the leading lady, unable to squeeze through. Watching drama really is human nature. Then Grace sent me a message. I'm about to leave. How about you? I'm about to leave too. Just leaving for good. I suddenly really wanted to see Grace's expression on the field when she witnessed those cards falling, what her face would look like, and after learning I had left the country, what kind of feelings she would have. Too bad I wouldn't get to see it. From now on, everything about Grace had nothing to do with me. I slowly got up and changed clothes. After packing, the entire house was empty. I turned back to look at the empty room, then took out my phone and blocked all numbers related to Grace. All social media accounts too. After doing all this, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Dragging my suitcase, I turned and left. 5 minutes before 9 o'clock, the plaza was packed shoulder to shoulder. Even security came to maintain order. Looking at the bustling crowd below, my roommates were somewhat tongue-tied. So many people. This incident will probably spread throughout the entire school quickly. That's perfect. So even after Ethan leaves, no one will gossip about him behind his back. Everyone chattered until it was 8:59. The group leader received news of my safe arrival at the airport, immediately rolled up his sleeves and shouted, "Ethan has arrived. Hurry up and get to work. Those throwing things, those taking photos, stay alert. Make sure he sees this spectacle before he boards the plane." As soon as he finished speaking, the 9 o'clock alarm went off. 2 guys positioned themselves left and right and pushed the stacks of cards that had been placed on the windowsill. In an instant, white cards from the 16th floor rooftop danced down like snowflakes, spinning as they fell. It's snowing. Everyone looked up. Just as the cards were about to hit the ground, people below stood on tiptoes, scrambling to grab them, wanting to see what was written on them. And at the very center of the plaza, Grace also looked up with her friends, seeing this grand spectacle. Wow, scattering so many. Must be 10,000 cards. Ethan really put his heart into this. Just look at Grace's popularity. If he didn't make it this spectacular, how could he declare his territory and intimidate love rivals? True, but what exactly is written on these papers? Ethan's previous love letters were well written. Could these be 10,000 handwritten love letters? Don't say that. With Ethan's patience and determination, it really might be possible. Hearing her friends' envious voices, Grace's heart was also full of anticipation. She reached up and caught a card, smiling as she turned it over. But when she saw the words on it, her expression instantly froze. Her friends nearby crowded over, wanting to tease her. But after seeing the words on the paper, they all widened their eyes. Their speech became stuttering. That can't be possible. It must be a mistake. Several people comforted her, while picking up more cards from the ground to show Grace. But the newly picked ones were still the same printed text. Ethan will never love Grace again. Now everyone was completely panicked, their unease deepening continuously. How is this possible? Wasn't this supposed to be a confession? What the hell is this? Is someone deliberately causing trouble? Several people were still making excuses, while the surrounding crowd had already each received one. So this isn't a confession. Damn, fooled everyone into coming here. Just to clarify this matter. Going through all this trouble for publicity. Now the whole school knows. That's great. Finally no one will bother us about Ethan anymore. Grace's complexion, in this wave after wave of complaints, slowly drained of color. She felt as if something was blocking her heart, unable to catch her breath, her brain lacking oxygen, left only with blankness, her hands tightly clutching a stack of papers. Thousands of people in the plaza stood on tiptoes, wanting to see her reaction, and she lived up to expectations, throwing down what was in her hands, striding toward the main building. The spectators hurriedly followed. Here, after throwing down the last stack of papers, the roommates prepared to call it a day, but just as they reached the door, they heard rumbling sounds from below. The elevator wasn't coming up either, so they decided to take the stairs down. Just reaching the 15th floor, they ran into Grace head-on. She was running up with several friends. Upon seeing them, she immediately blocked the passage. Then the spectators following behind also came up, facing these tall and imposing, aggressive-looking girls. They showed no fear. Isn't this our Tsinghua campus beauty? Didn't you say you look down on Ethan? Why are you also here for this boring spectacle? Hearing this sarcastic tone, Grace's hands clenched into fists. Her face immediately darkened. "Did you throw these things down on your own initiative?" Hearing the words, "own initiative," the three guys burst into uncontrollable laughter. How would we dare? This was Ethan, who spent big money to print personally, worked so hard to bring them to school. "We're just delivery guys, at most." Hearing this was really Ethan's doing, the students below began whispering among themselves. Doesn't Grace dislike Ethan? How come even after he gave up, she still seems unwilling to let go? If you ask me if she regrets it now, she really deserves to be humiliated like this. What was she doing during those first 99 times? These presumptuous words fell on Grace's heart, like sharp blades piercing through her long-held confidence. These past 2 years, she thought she knew me inside and out, could easily manipulate my thoughts and actions, and indeed things went as she expected. The first 99 confessions all ended smoothly. She thought everything would conclude with the 100th. Between her and me, a perfect ending could be drawn. But when she was most confident of victory, I dealt her a fatal blow, in a way that announced it to the world. She could no longer pretend to be aloof and detached, with that carefree demeanor, but completely exposed her true nature. She grabbed the stair railing, her voice urgent and panicked. "Where is he?" The group leader looked at her expression. A gloating smile appeared on his face. He raised his hand, making a wing-flapping gesture. "The confession is over." Of course he flew away. Grace instinctively felt he was lying to her. Upon hearing those last 2 words, her heartbeat stopped for several seconds. "Flew away? What does that mean?" She suddenly had a bad premonition. Pushing past the guys blocking her way, she rushed toward the rooftop. The rooftop was completely empty, without any human figure, while the stairwell and elevator were packed with people. Ethan couldn't possibly get down. Did he not come to school today? Realizing this, Grace's mind raced through memories. She remembered last night downstairs, seeing me for the last time, finally discovering what was wrong. But she couldn't understand why I had spent so much energy planning revenge against her, yet didn't come to witness it all in person. What could be the reason? Suddenly, Grace felt something inside her was rapidly slipping away. She felt panicked, helpless, and unable to save it. Grace was escorted downstairs by her friends. She bent down in confusion, picking up a card that had been stepped on, covered with footprints. Seeing the words on it again, she had completely different feelings. Her earlier anger and shock had transformed into boundless panic, the panic that things had spiraled beyond her control. Her friends saw this expression on her face for the first time, scratching their heads trying to think of ways to comfort her. "It's okay, Grace. Ethan pulling this stunt. He's definitely still angry about being reported last time. You should go back and explain things properly to him. Say all the words you've been keeping in your heart. He likes you so much, he'll definitely forgive you." Right, he's been chasing you for 2 years. 99 confessions. This time he's definitely just throwing a tantrum. A little coaxing will fix everything. Though everyone was trying to spin things positively, Grace's sixth sense told her this time was different from all the others. She couldn't suppress that panicked feeling, and didn't want to hear them chattering endlessly in her ears. Feeling irritated and confused, she drove straight back to the apartment, wanting to find me and get some answers. At 10:30, she parked and walked to the entrance, seeing sanitation workers cleaning the trash bins. Right now, she desperately wanted to see what exactly I had burned. But at this moment, the workers had already put up new trash bins and driven away. Grace could only take that cart upstairs. As soon as the elevator doors opened, she was blocked inside by several large boxes of luggage at the entrance. A young man nearby saw she couldn't get out and quickly apologized, moving the luggage aside. She guessed this must be a new neighbor who just moved in next door. Remembering that my leg injury hadn't healed, she decided to use reminding me to be careful going out as an excuse to find me and talk. But when she reached my door, she discovered the door across the hall was ajar. She raised her hand and knocked. It was very quiet inside, no sign of anyone moving around. This prolonged silence made Grace unconsciously frown. She was about to push the door open to look, when a male voice came from behind her. "Are you the neighbor from across the hall?" "Hello, I'm the new resident of 1705. Please take care of me." 1705. Hearing these numbers, Grace instinctively looked at the number plate on the door. The next second, she froze in place like a statue. The young man pushed his luggage over, still enthusiastically introducing himself. Grace didn't hear a single word. She suddenly turned around, her eyes fixed intensely on him, pointing at the door number 1705 on the left. 1705's new resident Then where's the original resident? The guy wiped sweat from his face, his eyes full of joyful expression. The agent said he moved out this morning. Do you know him? Can you give me his contact information? He seemed to be in a hurry to leave. Listed this place really low. I got a steal and wanted to thank him. These few short sentences completely scrambled Grace's brain. She stood there for a long time, then suddenly snapped back to reality, turned and pushed open the ajar door. The room was completely empty, except for basic furniture. Not a single personal item remained. Clean as a model home. The guy still smiled, showing his teeth clean right. The agent said that guy cleaned for 3 days. Since it wasn't convenient to move everything, he threw away a lot of stuff. Grace didn't know how she made it back home. When she came to her senses, she found herself collapsed in the entryway, both legs numb from squatting too long. She looked like someone who had just been pulled from water, completely soaked through. Her sweat-dampened clothes stuck to her body, ice cold, making her shiver uncontrollably. She took out her phone and found my WeChat. With trembling hands typed a few words. Why did you move away? But as soon as she hit send, a small red dot appeared on the screen, along with 2 lines indicating non-friend status. Grace stubbornly sent several more messages, which triggered several more notifications. Looking at the phone screen, she felt like she was choking, her throat almost unable to breathe. She clutched her neck desperately, her face quickly turning bright red. Just as she was about to suffocate, the phone rang and she loosened her grip to answer. From the other end came her roommate's panicked exclamation. Grace, this is bad. Ethan, he went to Italy. Just now, the monkey and I were at the international office. We saw his name on the exchange student list. This statement hit like thunder, stirring up massive waves in Grace's heart. She tried to steady herself against a cabinet to stand, but her already numb legs wouldn't obey. She fell headfirst to the ground, her forehead hitting the corner of the wall, opening a bloody wound. Blood gushed out profusely. The dropped phone transmitted chaos. What happened to you? We're coming over right away. But Grace was beyond caring about anything else. She raised her hand to cover the wound. Her body curled into a ball, making painful low sounds from her throat. Everything went dark before her eyes, before completely losing consciousness. Her final thought was a sentence she had seen countless times today, now carved into her heart. Ethan will never love Grace again. Grace was severely injured. Though fortunately she survived, she was still admitted to the intensive care unit. When she woke up, she realized 3 days had passed. Several friends were leaning by her hospital bed. They breathed a sigh of relief, then chattered on about what happened during the days she was unconscious. According to information they gathered, Ethan had already arrived in Italy 3 days ago, but hadn't completed the enrollment procedures there. They heard that after the list was published, someone reported him to the school, saying he had cheated on a recent exam and should have his study abroad opportunity revoked. If the spot gets cancelled, he'll probably have to come back. Don't worry, Grace, he can't escape. Grace's heart suddenly pounded. Her eyes widened in shock. He went to Italy. Exam cheating, spot cancelled, coming back. She hadn't yet recovered from this massive information overload when knocking came from outside the door. One roommate ran to open it. The remaining 3 all turned to look at Singhua's most renowned figure. Professor Williams walked in with a stern face. He glanced at the person on the hospital bed. His naturally authoritative presence made people afraid to look directly at him. You must be Grace. I heard you testified in the plagiarism case between Ethan and Sean. I'd like to have a word with you. Hearing this, the roommates didn't dare linger. They hurriedly left the hospital room. Watching the door slowly close, Grace slightly lifted her chin. Yes, it was me, getting a definitive answer. Professor Williams's face immediately flushed with anger. Ethan told me you gave false testimony. How dare you fabricate evidence in such a serious matter? Do you know what impact your actions have on his future? Because he's carrying the burden of plagiarism, his exchange student spot will be revoked. The college is considering expelling him to suppress public opinion. Once the paperwork comes down, his entire life will be ruined by your hands. He likes you, but tell me honestly, in these 2 years, has he ever done anything to wrong you? Do you hate him so much that you must drive him to a dead end? If you have any conscience left as a human being, go to the school immediately and tell them the truth. Otherwise, not only him, but I and the entire design college will be destroyed by your single lie. Hearing these words, Grace felt her head buzzing. Her heart immediately began to panic. She had only been angry that I wouldn't choose her at the club gathering. She wanted to force me to come and make peace, so she lied to Teacher Zhao. She never imagined it would trigger such a massive chain reaction. Even less dared to envision, if everything developed in the direction Professor Williams predicted, how far things would escalate. If she really destroyed my future, with my personality, I would probably hate her for the rest of my life. Lovers, turning into bitter enemies. This was something Grace could never accept, even unto death. She no longer cared about the wound on her forehead, struggling to get up, to go to school with Professor Williams and tell the truth. But as soon as they left the room, they were stopped by medical staff. The doctors wouldn't let her leave, all trying to persuade her, but she couldn't listen to a single word. Insisting on returning to school, Professor Williams had already contacted the head of the disciplinary department. Grace, in front of the design college dean and Teacher Zhao, identified Sean as the one who plagiarized. Sean never expected her to suddenly turn against him. He panicked instantly, crying and saying it wasn't him. Teacher Zhao also didn't expect her to overturn her testimony, not knowing whether to believe her or not. Grace looked coldly at Sean, opened her phone, and showed a photo. This is a letter Sean personally wrote to me before. My family will bring the original over later. You can compare the handwriting on the letter and the note. Hearing this, Sean's face instantly crumpled. He stumbled back a few steps, under the serious gazes of several leaders. Trembling uncontrollably, crying hysterically, Grace, I'm Sean. Have you forgotten we grew up together? This matter is already over. Why are you lying? Grace watched him, still trying to deny it, despite the evidence. A flash of disgust crossed her eyes. I never liked you. Before was just acting. Now I don't want to act anymore. Of course I won't cover for you anymore. Since you did it, you need to take responsibility for your actions. As soon as she finished speaking, Sean's family brought over the original letter. After careful comparison, the handwriting on the note was indeed Sean's. The disciplinary department immediately held a meeting, deciding to issue a school-wide announcement. To clarify the facts, due to the severe impact, Sean was expelled from school, and this incident was recorded in his permanent file. When everything was settled, it was already dark. Grace leaned against the wall as she came out, and called to Professor Williams. Professor Williams, does Ethan know about what happened here? Although the matter was perfectly resolved, Professor Williams's anger hadn't subsided. He still looked at her with displeasure. He was about to be expelled. How could he not know? Did you hit your head too hard? Being scolded like this, Grace felt even worse, but she still wanted to explain and resolve things. Now that everything's resolved, will he come back? Professor Williams glared at her, his tone full of disdain. This spot is the only one in the entire design college. Ethan earned it through merit. After 3 years of good study in Italy, he'll have a bright future when he returns. Why would he come back? Besides, with people like you at Tsinghua, not coming back would spare him some suffering. I should have known he was bewitched to fall for someone like you. I should have talked to him back then about choosing a partner. You really need to keep your eyes wide open. When I received Professor Williams's safety call, I was sunbathing by the seaside. He didn't know how the teacher got Grace to tell the truth, and didn't want to inquire. Only sincerely expressed gratitude to the teacher. Professor Williams gave him a few more instructions, then hurried off to a meeting. I felt the sea breeze, took a sip of the juice beside me, and leaned back leisurely on the beach. 3 days ago, I arrived in Italy, originally intending to complete enrollment procedures directly, but the school called back to China to verify my situation, suddenly notifying me that there was a problem with my spot, and it couldn't be processed temporarily. I asked my roommate, and learned someone had secretly reported me. Then I contacted Professor Williams to explain the situation, asking him to think of a solution. Although Professor Williams was Tsinghua's golden reputation, he also knew this matter would be difficult to clarify, and prepared for the worst. I have to say, since encountering Grace, my stress tolerance had obviously improved significantly. Now facing the serious consequence of possible expulsion, I could see past it all, no longer taking it to heart. Even had the mood to buy a plane ticket overnight, to take a little vacation by the Aegean Sea. Now that everything was resolved, I was completely relaxed, thinking about when to go back, to finish the incomplete procedures. But just as I was browsing flight tickets, a message suddenly popped up in the dorm group chat. Ethan, Grace just came to our dorm looking for us. said she wanted your contact information. She said she wanted to apologize. We wouldn't fall for her tricks. Don't worry, we didn't reveal a single digit. You don't know how haggard she looks now. Still has gauze wrapped around her head. Heard she was in the ICU a few days ago. Karma really is a thing. She deserves it. Seeing these vivid complaints, images immediately flashed through my mind of Grace asking for my new phone number and being rejected. A smile curved at the corner of my mouth. I hummed a tune and sent a big red envelope to the group. Thanks everyone for helping me these past days. Everything has been resolved smoothly. When the 3-year period is up, I'll treat everyone to dinner when I return to China to express my gratitude in person. My roommates knew I was always generous and didn't hold back. They all claimed the red envelope. Seeing the screen filled with falling kiss emojis, I was happy to have met such good roommates, too. After booking the earliest flight back to Milan, I stretched and stood up, walking on the soft sand toward the hotel. This time the procedure process went very smoothly. No problems arose. I looked at the stamped documents in my hand, and my newly issued student ID, showing a satisfied expression. When staff asked if I wanted dormitory housing, or would find my own apartment, since I couldn't really accept the complex international student dormitories. So, I had my family purchase a small apartment near the school in advance, and immediately headed there with my luggage. After reaching my destination, I looked at the stairs ahead, and tried lifting my heavy suitcase, letting out a long sigh. Just as I was considering whether to pay someone to help, a beautiful girl's voice suddenly came from nearby. I turned around and saw a stunning young blonde beauty, asking in English if I needed help. I quickly nodded. The beautiful girl helped me carry the luggage up the stairs, chatting with me as we walked. By the time we reached the apartment door, we had both finished our introductions. I politely expressed my gratitude to her, but she showed me her reddened palms. Good-naturedly joking, I helped you out. A simple thank you probably isn't enough. If it's convenient, could you give me your business card? Hearing this request, I paused for a moment, but quickly reacted and started searching through my bag. After thorough searching, I couldn't find where I'd put them. I could only apologetically say sorry. The beauty said it was no problem, somehow produced a pen from nowhere, and extended her hand to me. Could you write your phone number on my hand? I hesitated for a few seconds but took the pen. On that slender, jade-like hand, I wrote down a long string of numbers. After moving into the new apartment, I was busy for several days, finally getting the place properly arranged. That evening I received word that all international exchange students had completed registration. Tomorrow, there would be a welcome ceremony in the auditorium. I noted the time and left early the next day. These past few days, though I would wander around campus when free, because the school was so large, and the architectural styles were quite similar, I still got lost, seeing time running short. Just as I was about to ask someone for directions, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. After hesitating a moment, I answered. A very familiar voice came through the receiver, but I couldn't remember who it was. While I was puzzled, someone suddenly tapped my shoulder from behind. I turned around and saw the beautiful girl who had helped me a few days ago, smiling and greeting me, phone still held to her ear. Only then did I realize this was her number. My face showed a delighted expression. Lucy asked what I was daydreaming about. I honestly told her about the trouble I was having hearing about the auditorium. She immediately said she was going there too, and could show me the way. I didn't doubt her. The two of us navigated through the maze-like campus, chatting and laughing the whole way. After about 10 minutes of walking, Lucy pointed to a building ahead and told me we'd arrived. I took out my phone to check. Indeed, it matched exactly with the building photo the school had sent. I quickly waved and thanked Lucy. This welcome ceremony lasted 2 hours. My back was sore when I came out of the auditorium. I was wondering where to have lunch when someone suddenly appeared in front of me. Lucy smiled and greeted me, asking about my lunch plans. I was actually troubled by this very thing. She saw my concern and smilingly recommended a restaurant, inviting me to join her. I agreed, following her out of the school. When we reached the restaurant entrance, I realized this was a Chinese restaurant. A trace of confusion flashed in my eyes. You want to take me for Chinese food? Are you used to eating it? I heard you guys don't adapt well to the food here. I hope we can have a pleasant dining experience today, and I want to try Chinese food too. That's why I chose this restaurant. I hadn't expected her to be so thoughtful, and didn't want to refuse her kindness. Smiling, I responded, then let's go with this place. I'm somewhat of a host here. Let me take care of this meal. Hope I can give you a good Chinese dining experience. The two of us chatted as we entered the restaurant, found a seat and sat down. I held the menu, showing Lucy. She seemed very interested in these dishes. I introduced them one by one, then ordered 5 dishes. Thanks to her lively yet polite personality, this meal was indeed very pleasant. We discussed cultural differences between East and West, and talked about various interesting recent happenings at school. We quickly became familiar with each other. After lunch, Lucy even walked me back to my apartment. When parting, she showed a reluctant expression, politely extending an invitation. This weekend, may I have the honor of inviting you for afternoon tea? The weekend brought perfect weather. I gladly accepted the invitation. Chatting leisurely with Lucy in the garden cafe, a flock of white doves flew over from the lake. A feather drifted gracefully onto my hair. Lucy saw it and smiled, standing up to help remove it. We were so close together. From a distance, we looked quite intimate. I looked up with smiling eyes, thanks barely leaving my lips. When my peripheral vision caught something to the left, my gaze instantly froze. That woman standing at the entrance with gauze wrapped around her forehead, looking utterly haggard and worn. Why did she look so much like Grace? Before I could take a closer look, the woman had already stormed over aggressively. She lowered her bloodshot eyes, looking down at the table of delicious pastries from above, her gaze shifting between the two of us, angrily demanding to know who she was. Hearing that familiar voice, I confirmed it was indeed Grace, although I didn't know how she knew I was here. I wasn't surprised by her appearance. I knew she would chase me to Italy eventually. After all, in Grace's eyes, I was prey within easy reach. She would never let me escape from under her nose. I had long prepared for this reunion, so facing her terrible attitude, I remained exceptionally calm. A newly made friend? What kind of friend? Girlfriend, is that it? Grace practically ground her teeth on those last few words. She never imagined that dragging herself here with such serious injuries, flying thousands of miles, wanting to explain everything to me properly, to confess it all, she would walk into a scene of me dating another woman. Just a few days abroad, and you've already found someone new. Didn't you like me for 2 years? Didn't give up after 99 rejections? Didn't we agree to be together on the 100th confession? Why are you going back on your word, breaking your promise? Realizing this, the fury in Grace's chest burned hotter, her voice filled with anguish. You forgot me. I didn't give her a chance to rehash old grievances. Directly cutting off her words. Chasing after you really wasn't anything to be proud of. So what if I forgot? Shouldn't I have forgotten? Besides that face, there's nothing remarkable about you. I'm not interested anymore. Wanting a change of pace? Do I need your permission for that too? A few sentences completely choked Grace. She looked at me in disbelief, her eyes full of doubt. Ethan, what exactly have you been through these past days? We clearly agreed. I've been having a great time these days. Eating well, drinking well, sleeping well. Thanks to you, I even had time to travel. Your sudden appearance here is what's making me unhappy. If you can understand what I mean, please leave this cafe immediately. Honestly, you're disturbing my meal with this beautiful woman. As I said this, my tone was light and airy, my expression matter of fact. This coldly indifferent attitude made Grace's already poor complexion even paler. Only then did she realize everything had truly spiraled beyond her control. Her emotions became even more agitated. She grabbed my hand and began explaining incoherently. I was wrong before. I shouldn't have taken advantage of your feelings. I'm sorry, Ethan. Please forgive me. Give me one more chance, okay? In my eyes, her apology was completely insincere. I was publicly rejected 99 times. One sorry from you can just erase it all. What wishful thinking, what a pipe dream. Looking at her slightly trembling hands, I frowned, my tone dripping with mockery. I can't afford the campus beauty's apology. Don't worry, from now on we're strangers. You don't have to worry about me clinging to you anymore. Seeing the determination in my eyes, Grace knew I wasn't joking. She panicked terribly. Her hands unconsciously tightened, gripping me so hard I frowned. Lucy, who couldn't understand our conversation, initially thought we were friends catching up, but seeing the situation turning bad, my hand being gripped until it turned red, she quickly stood up to help free me. This action, to Grace, who was already beside herself, was a provocation. Without thinking, she shoved Lucy's hand away, Lucy was pushed back several steps. Grace glared at her coldly and tried to drag me away. She steadied herself against the wall, seeing my resistant expression, immediately rushed forward again, landing a punch right on Grace's face. The two instantly began grappling. The previously peaceful garden cafe erupted into chaos. Tables and chairs toppled over. Debris everywhere. Even nearby flower pots were knocked over. Many customers, afraid of getting involved, rushed out the door. The shop owner on the second floor immediately called the police. Located in the city center, police arrived quickly, separating the two who were seeing red and taking them both to the station. The gauze on Grace's head had been torn off, revealing a ghastly wound. The sight made the police officers shudder, instinctively assuming Lucy was bullying a patient. Lucy desperately tried to explain. Grace wasn't backing down either, insisting Lucy had struck first. The two argued for ages, nearly bursting the office's eardrums. Without getting to the bottom of who was right or wrong, out of desperation, they could only turn to me for help, since I was the only eyewitness. "Sir, could you describe what happened at the scene, please?" Hearing this inquiry, both turned around simultaneously, fixing their anxious gazes on me. From the moment they started fighting, I had stepped aside to avoid getting accidentally hurt. Throughout, I hadn't said a single word to break up the fight, watching them take out their frustrations on each other. Now unable to stay out of it, I didn't hesitate. I raised my hand, pointing at Grace without even blinking. She made the first move and pushed her. Hearing these words, Grace froze completely in place, unable to believe I would identify her. She looked straight at me. Even her voice was trembling. "I only pushed her a little. She was clearly the one who hit first." "Ethan, why would you?" Her words came to an abrupt halt. A flash of realization crossed Grace's mind. She suddenly understood why I was saying this. I was getting revenge on her, making her taste what it felt like to be wrongly accused and take the blame. Realizing this, she couldn't say another word, only feeling her chest tighten, unable to breathe. The police couldn't understand the Chinese, and wanted me to translate. I directly cleared up the relationship between us. Lucy and I were dining together. She barged in and caused trouble, tried to force me to leave against my will, then pushed someone. That's why they started fighting. The last bit of hope in Grace's heart was completely extinguished. She opened her mouth, her voice hoarse and powerless. "You'll never stand by my side again, will you?" I glanced at her with disgust, smiling coldly. "I'm an honest person. I only stand on the side of truth." Grace still wouldn't give up, pressing with another question. "If she had pushed me first today, would you have honestly told the truth? Is that even a question? Are we close relatives or something?" Lucy is young and thin-skinned. Of course, I have to look out for my friend. After dropping that line, I couldn't be bothered with whatever expression she had. I turned and left. With the testimony plus quickly obtained surveillance footage, the truth was soon revealed. Grace was detained as a foreign national causing disturbances. I waited for Lucy to come out and apologized to her. Repeatedly apologized. She waved her hand, not taking the minor injuries to heart. Instead, saying today's date was interrupted. She wanted to invite me out again next week. I thought carefully, though Lucy was indeed very beautiful. From what happened today, she seemed insufficiently rational and mature. I knew Grace wouldn't let this go easily, and didn't want to drag her into it. Plus, didn't want to visit the police station again. I could tell she had other intentions toward me. The current me wouldn't act impulsively anymore. So in the end, I politely declined. Grace searched for connections for a long time, finally getting someone to bail her out. She wandered aimlessly through the streets alone, not knowing where to go. Just thinking about everything that had happened recently made her feel like her entire heart was being roasted over fire. Unbearably tortuous, overwhelming regret surged like a tide, drowning her completely. She desperately wanted to go back to my 99th confession, to agree to be with me right then and there, to reveal her true feelings. Then none of the subsequent chaos would have happened. I wouldn't have given up on her. We could have ended up together. But the cold wind and rain of late night shattered her fantasies. Looking at the endless drizzle, she finally realized everything had reached the point of no return. Even so, she still didn't want to give up. She had secretly loved for 2 years, waited for 2 years, absolutely wouldn't allow her hopes to be dashed. She vowed to find every way to win me back, the way I had chased her, using 100 kinds of devotion to earn one forgiveness. Just once. Once would be enough. For the next half month I didn't see Grace. Life returned to normal. Lucy asked me out 2 more times after that. After I refused, our relationship just fizzled out. I didn't feel sad about this brief romance. My normal social and academic life was quite fulfilling. In this foreign land, I also learned some cooking techniques. So I quickly integrated into the international student circle. Just when I was about to forget Grace existed, she suddenly appeared again, with several cars worth of roses and balloons, blocking me at school. Looking at the curious glances from all directions, I was momentarily speechless. Grace ignored my expression, seizing the opportunity to pour out everything she'd been hiding in her heart. "Ethan, if I also chase you 100 times, would you be willing to give me one more chance?" If I had heard these words a few months ago, I probably would have been moved to tears. But now I felt not only unmoved, but got goosebumps all over. Such melodramatic plot, such cheesy lines. Was I possessed back then, to actually be able to make such confessions in public so many times? Thinking back to those days, I didn't even feel nostalgic, only found it too painful to watch. If I had one chance to travel through time, I would definitely try my hardest to stop myself from falling for Grace at first sight, expose her true nature directly. Wouldn't have been foolish for so long, for 2 years. Over 700 days wasted on someone unworthy. What a pity. I was still feeling regretful, not listening to what the person in front of me was saying. After waiting a long time without getting an answer, Grace's heart grew more and more panicked. Her whole demeanor became restless and uneasy, looking around, wondering if she hadn't done something well enough. But after checking everything, she couldn't find any flaws, could only look at me nervously. As soon as she lowered her eyes, I directly avoided her gaze, turned around and waved at someone in the distance, my voice carrying surprise. "Hey, Stella, where are you guys going?" She followed my gaze, only to realize I was greeting someone else. This dismissive attitude made Grace's heart plummet to freezing depths. Her complexion immediately became extremely ugly, desperately squeezing out a few words through gritted teeth, trying to regain my attention. "Ethan." Before she could finish, the girl named Stella walked over, her tone sounding particularly familiar. "We're planning to go camping, Ethan. Want to come with us?" The weather was clear. I had no other weekend plans, and there was a big nuisance in front of me. I had no reason to refuse. I cheerfully agreed. Stella had expected I would accept, naturally reaching to take the bag from my hands. I didn't refuse, directly handing the bag to her, smiling as I asked about her evening plans. Neither of us gave Grace so much as a glance, chatting away as we joined the camping group. Watching the group of people slowly walking away, Grace's complexion suddenly turned deathly pale. She clenched her fist tightly, looking at Stella with eyes full of resentment and deep jealousy. Grace followed behind us, all the way to the outskirts, across a river. She could clearly see everything happening on the other side. 7 or 8 international students gathered together, barbecuing and chatting, playing party games, looking exceptionally lively. She couldn't blend in, could only watch from afar. But the more she watched, the more her heart ached. No matter what I did, that girl named Stella stayed by my side. The distance between us two never exceeded 10 steps, and kept getting closer. This intimacy, different from others, made Grace's eyes red with jealous heat, wishing she could go over and drag me away directly. But she knew clearly that if she really did that, it would definitely make me angry. She didn't want our relationship to continue deteriorating further, so she couldn't do anything to add fuel to the fire. She could only swallow those complex emotions burning through her heart and lungs, convincing herself to endure it. This patience lasted 6 hours. The sky gradually darkened. On the other side, they lit a bonfire and threw a party, extremely lively. Perhaps it was too noisy. I wasn't quite used to it, and went to the riverside alone, wanting to feel the breeze. Grace seized the opportunity to approach me, calling out, "Ethan, I have some things I want to say to you." I was in a good mood today, but seeing her still didn't sit well with me. My tone wasn't particularly kind. "Sorry, I don't really want to listen." Saying this, I started to leave. Grace immediately panicked, directly grasping my hand, her eyes full of pleading. "Just give me a few minutes, Ethan. There are things I've wanted to say for a long time." Hearing this, I finally looked up at her, my expression quite subtle. "What things from long ago? Don't tell me it's some nonsense about falling for me at first sight 2 years ago." By the end, my voice already carried a mocking tone. Grace was like being struck by lightning, completely frozen. She never imagined she would hear from my mouth the secret she thought she had hidden so well. I didn't care about her feelings. The mockery on my face grew thicker. Grace, think about it carefully. If you said those words, forget about me, any other person, even yourself, would you dare believe it? Whose secret crush can stay hidden for 2 years without a single leak? Who would publicly reject their crush's 99 confessions just to satisfy their own ego? Who could push the person they like to the opposing side without fail, in the face of every crisis and pain? Is this love? More like absolute hatred, isn't it? Hearing my mockery, Grace felt her ears ringing, her mind completely blank. She desperately wanted to deny everything, but in the end, couldn't argue back with a single word, could only say some feeble, "That's not true. Ethan, I really do like you. Everyone around me knows it. They can all testify for me. Since I was unaware, who you like has nothing to do with me. From my perspective anyway, the person you liked from beginning to end was always Sean. You should go confess your devotion to him. Pour out your loyalty to him. You two are so well matched. The whole thing has been disgusting me from start to finish." The undisguised expression of disgust on my face became the final straw that broke Grace. Her body trembled uncontrollably, yet still refused to let go, stubbornly trying to make me stay. I had no patience to continue entangling with her, directly pulled my hand free and turned to leave. The moment our hands separated, she felt as if she was about to lose everything. A dull ache pierced her heart. The strength in her body drained away completely, swaying as if about to collapse. I remained completely indifferent, walking back to the crowd with light steps, never once looking back. I thought once everything was laid out in the open, Grace would give up, but I soon realized this person's brain couldn't process what people said. Nothing I said would work. Over the next few months, whenever I went out, I could definitely spot her within 20 meters. Every few days, she would approach me with various things she had concocted, confessing once every few times. By the third time, I could barely keep count. Facing her stubborn and obsessive behavior, I remained consistently indifferent, with no reaction. If I could pretend not to see, I'd pretend not to see. If that didn't work, I'd call security, using disrupting public order as grounds to have her removed. Back and forth like this. The entire school knew about this Grace character, and knew about her persistent pestering. So wherever she went, people would point and whisper, but she didn't take it to heart. Single-mindedly following my shadow, she thought as long as she persisted, she could eventually move me. But reality far exceeded her imagination. Not only did I show no trace of being touched, I accepted other women's advances right in front of her. I was good-looking and had a great personality. I could attract everyone's attention just by appearing, so I was never short of suitors. Before, to put her at ease, I would firmly reject other girls' feelings, devoting myself wholeheartedly to her. But now I welcomed all comers, except for her, no matter who sent flowers. I would smile and accept them, thanking each one, as if deliberately provoking her. Grace could only watch helplessly as I grew closer to the opposite sex around me, unable to do anything. Between us, from beginning to end, we were only ordinary classmates. She had no right to interfere with my social freedom. This point was made crystal clear when she lost control after drinking, and beat up a woman who had given me flowers. After I slapped her and spoke these words, as time passed, though the handprint faded, these words remained branded on her heart, becoming a sword hanging over her head, a needle piercing through her body, making her remember it deeply, never to forget again. Gradually Grace began getting used to seeing me, surrounded by admirers like stars around the moon. She had to admit I was right. I was never her private property. After being rejected again and again, slowly she became somewhat numb. No matter what hurtful words I said, what kind of looks I gave her, she no longer felt heartache. She counted from 1 to 50. From winter through spring to early summer, she thought life would continue this plainly. From 50 to 100. Perhaps there would even be a 101st time. Grace never planned to give up. Just when she thought she really could take everything in stride, an unexpected change occurred. I appeared before her holding another woman's hand, smiling as I told people nearby this was my girlfriend. In that moment Grace felt the sky was falling. She thought I was just playing around with those women, putting on a show for her to see. She never imagined I would actually accept someone someday. When that day happened right before her eyes, her blood rushed to her head. She instantly lost all reason, charging straight forward wanting answers. Before she could get close, she was stopped by security guards on patrol. Across a human wall, with reddened eyes, she screamed hoarsely, asking why. My gaze lingered on her for 1 second, my tone indifferent. I'm young and wealthy, with plenty of free time. What's wrong with dating beautiful women? Does it bother you? Grace was devastated for a long time after this. She drank alone at bars, getting blackout drunk night after night with no one to care. Every morning, when she woke up, looking at the empty surroundings, she would inevitably sink into painful emotions of being far from home, with no relatives or friends, utterly alone. The agony of unrequited love all became thorns lodged in her heart with no way to dissolve. Occasionally, when she drank too much, she would get a reckless notion, wanting to find me, to beg me to break up. But every time she approached me, seeing me holding hands with my new girlfriend, smiling radiantly together, she no longer had the courage to take another step forward. Grace had known me for 2 years, but she had never seen such a happy smile on my face, because during our time together, it couldn't even be called ordinary. To be precise, it was all painful daily experiences too difficult to look back on. Just seeing me with someone else once caused her such agony. Then in the past, when I watched her with Sean, what kind of feelings must I have had? Only now could Grace truly empathize. But everything was too late. She wouldn't listen to friends and family's advice, insisting on staying in Milan, seeking some kind of resolution. Day by day, so long yet so fleeting. When the summer heat finally dissipated, Grace finally heard news of my breakup. At first, she didn't dare believe it, until she heard people mention it repeatedly. Only then did she dare release those joyful emotions that had been suppressed in her heart for so long. She went to find me with a smile, wanting to comfort me, but everything was beyond her expectations again. I showed no signs of sadness whatsoever. The way I looked at her was no different from months before, like looking at air. The smile on Grace's face froze. She tentatively asked me if I had been wronged in any way. This relationship for me was indeed based on physical attraction. I was simply drawn to the beautiful woman's looks, so I dated her for a few months. Now, having seen that face enough, I was getting aesthetically tired. Since she was returning to China anyway, I naturally suggested breaking up. As for genuine feelings, I had indeed invested some, but not very much. After separating, aside from some initial melancholy, I recovered quite quickly. So hearing Grace ask such an abrupt question, I was momentarily speechless. I stared at her for a moment, finally putting on a polite smile. It was an amicable breakup. What wrongdoing could there possibly be? Hearing this, Grace's heart settled slightly. The next second, she was choked by my cold follow-up. Besides, even if I had suffered great wrongs, compared to what I experienced the past 2 years, what would it matter? Aren't you the witness who saw it all firsthand? Why bother with this crocodile tears fake sympathy? Those last few mocking sentences made Grace recoil. She wanted to explain, but I gave her no chance whatsoever. I can explain what happened back then. Ethan, all right, any more, and it'll be annoying. Grace, stop performing in front of me, okay? I can no longer appreciate your acting skills. 3 parts cold, 3 parts callous, 4 parts whatever. If you're having withdrawal symptoms, just go back to China. Find Sean and your group of friends, all right. They'd definitely love to play along with your act. These few sentences made Grace flush red with shame. No longer having the courage to speak, I picked up my bag and pushed past her, walking straight toward the academic building. Now that the romantic performance is over, it's time to focus all energy on studying. I promised Professor Williams I'd achieve something and return to China to repay my teacher's kindness. Having experienced so much, Grace could no longer be defeated by my few cutting words. She even regrouped and prepared to continue confessing. From the 50th time to the 99th, from late autumn through harsh winter, facing the pool of flowers she arranged, brilliant fireworks confessions, drones flying around Milan's sky spelling out messages. I had no reaction whatsoever. I was even somewhat grateful that I had corrected how people around me addressed me. Now everyone calls me by my English name. Very few people know that I'm the Ethan who was confessed to. At this point, the confession schemes Grace could come up with had reached their limits. After all, the previous 99 attempts hadn't moved me. She was truly at her wit's end. Finally, with a friend's reminder, she came up with one last idea. For the 100th confession, she chose the school's small garden. She arranged a massive domino display in the garden, recreating the scene from our first meeting. She hung many starlights in the treetops, planning to light candles in the garden at night, to take me back to the past. To lure me there, Grace enlisted many people, preparing dozens of backup plans. This time, she would definitely make me understand that she truly fell for me at first sight back then, and now truly knew her mistakes and repented. Everything was arranged perfectly. Only one unexpected thing happened. The appointed time arrived, but the male lead didn't show up. All the people she'd asked couldn't find any trace of me. All the prepared backup plans became useless. Watching the carefully planned surprise about to fall apart completely, Grace completely lost control. Like a madwoman, she drove around searching every possible place. The 9 o'clock alarm rang. The dark forest was instantly illuminated by lights. Countless balloons floated up. Petals and feathers fell from the sky. Romantic piano music echoed through the woods. The sound of clicking was incessant. The domino display had started automatically. The sound of falling pieces continued for seconds. After lasting more than 10 minutes, the moment the last piece fell, all the candles lit up at once, brilliantly illuminated, revealing the lifelike image of dancing swans on the ground. All the surprises were complete, but Grace felt as if all her strength had been drained. She leaned against a nearby flower stand, sweat beading densely on her forehead, no light left in her eyes, simply because the spot on her right, deliberately left empty for the male lead, had no one there. I hadn't come to her 100th confession, just as I hadn't gone to my own 100th confession, which was a farewell scene. Grace knew I must have seen through her intentions, and deliberately vanished without a trace. And indeed, as she suspected, when all the dust had settled, her phone rang. It was an unknown international number, but as soon as she answered, she quickly recognized my voice on the other end. From the other side came the sound of crashing waves and light laughter. I heard you're planning your 100th confession tonight. Unfortunately, I'm not in Milan right now. My apologies. Grace's heart, which had burned to ashes after hearing this familiar voice, sparked back to life slightly. She swallowed the pain and resentment in her throat, affecting a nonchalant tone. It doesn't matter. Just that you're willing to call me makes me very happy. As long as you're willing, I can prepare a 101st or 102nd confession. Her voice carried hidden hope, as if she was already dreaming of me forgiving her. I didn't want to create such illusions. I looked at the surging seawater before me, and the warm sunlight on my body, adding a note of pleasure to my voice. That won't be necessary. I'm calling today just to inform you of two things. Grace's throat moved. Her hand gripping the phone tightened. Light flickered in her eyes, whether from inexplicably growing hope, or the wavering reflection of candlelight. The first thing is a kind reminder. It's winter now, and the weather is dry. When you're done playing around, hurry up and blow out all those garden candles, so you don't cause a disaster. Hearing this, Grace looked up, and saw a withered leaf slowly drifting down, spinning in circles as it fell. The second thing is to tell you some good news. I'm dating someone again. This girlfriend is even more beautiful than the last one. You can stop your confessions at the 100th. These simple sentences echoed endlessly in Grace's mind like countless reverberations. As if under a spell, she was brainwashed by these repeating words. Her forehead pierced with heart-wrenching pain. Under the severe agony, she lost all strength, and with a thud, her phone slipped and crashed onto a candle holder. Unfortunately, for convenient spacing and storage, these candle holders were connected with string. When one candle fell, it pulled the neighboring ones down too. The blazing flames spread to the scattered dry leaves and feathers on the ground, then extended to the wooden domino pieces. The winter wind raged. Within a few breaths, fire was running wild throughout the garden. Grace's eyes reflected the towering flames. The coldness in her body was also dispelled by this heat, but she made no move to escape or call for help. She stood like a statue, becoming part of this garden. An entire night passed. All the trees in the garden were burned to nothing. The only fortunate thing was no casualties occurred. When preparing this surprise, for secrecy, Grace had paid to clear away everyone in the area. When the accident happened, she was the only person around. Firefighters arrived in time, rescuing her, just as she was about to be overcome by smoke. Though she narrowly kept her life, the consequences of her reckless actions could not be erased. This fire infuriated Tsinghua's administration. They firmly stated they would pursue accountability to the end. As the primary suspect, Grace was arrested and detained by police. When the Song family learned this news, they panicked, using all connections trying to bail her out. But this was an international case. Grace could never escape unscathed. In the end, the Song family threw most of their assets into compensation, promising to pay the school 10 times the damages. Only then did Singhua finally relent. Due to the severe impact caused, Grace spent half a year in prison, was blacklisted by the EU and deported, banned from entry for life. As soon as she was released, she was sent to the airport to be repatriated. Seeing people around her wearing summer clothes, Grace, dazed as if from a dream, finally became somewhat lucid. It was already summer. 5 months had passed. I hadn't visited her even once. Realizing this, complex emotions surged through her heart. She couldn't tell if it was disappointment or loneliness. There would be plenty of time ahead. There would be chances to meet again. Grace could only comfort herself this way, but when she turned around, she saw me coming out of the arrival gate. After months of separation, my face showed no trace of fatigue. At first glance, only a smile that curved even my eyes with joy. What hurt Grace the most wasn't the smile on my face, but the woman I was holding hands with. In prison, she had asked the friends who visited her to find a way to bring her photos of my girlfriend, though she only saw them through the window briefly. Grace still remembered that face, but the woman standing beside me now wasn't the person from her memory. For a moment, she couldn't tell if she had remembered wrong, or if her friends had made a mistake. Just then I looked up and saw her, quite unusually, enthusiastically waving hello, then openly told her the truth. "Hey, long time no see. I just got back from traveling in Germany. You're actually out already. Time really flies like an arrow. Let me introduce you. This is my new girlfriend Elira." After Grace returned home, through several intermediaries, she sent me a message. She asked whether I was acting or being genuine. I didn't reply to her. By this point, I had completely seen through Grace as a person. She claimed to like me, but in reality, the only person she liked was herself. To her, I was merely a decoration, to satisfy her ego that had been inflated into grotesque proportions. Watching so many men chase after Aphrodite, willingly prostrating themselves at my feet for my amusement and manipulation. How powerful and twisted her psychology must be. No matter how much she tried to explain, in Grace's type of person's eyes, it would all just be excuses she made up. So I couldn't be bothered to deal with her anymore, nor did I deign to deal with her. No matter if she confessed 100 more times, 200 times, or 1,000 times, I would never give her so much as a glance again. There was no need to waste time on someone like her. In the second year of studying in Milan, I seized opportunities to participate in many competitions, broadened my horizons, and opened doors with prestigious companies. I was busy researching the most popular fashions with teachers and classmates. In my spare time, I would gather and relax with friends around me, traveling the world with my blonde-haired, blue-eyed girlfriend, experiencing the beautiful life together. Life is so long. I still had vast, unpredictable futures to explore. How could I make the mistake of misjudging people again, and get mired in self-pity? Days passed one by one. Soon, the 3-year exchange student career was ending. I returned home with a suitcase full of gold awards. As soon as I got off the plane, I saw my parents holding flowers to welcome me, along with several roommates. Not having seen them for so long, I was also excited. Running forward to embrace everyone, the group chatted as we headed to the restaurant that had been reserved long ago. There I met Professor Williams, who I hadn't seen in 3 years. He solemnly placed the briefcase in his hands, in front of me, raising his hand with a little joke, reporting to teacher. "Student Ethan has completed the mission you assigned and returned. Please review the results of my 3 years." Professor Williams, of course, knew about the works I had designed abroad, but after this long separation, he was happy to play along with a few jokes, gently patting my shoulder, feigning seriousness. "Don't get too proud or complacent. You still need to work hard to reach even greater heights." These words made everyone present laugh. My parents warmly invited everyone to sit down and eat, toasting and drinking. The atmosphere was filled with joy and celebration. After eating and drinking to our heart's content, I took out several invitations from my bag, handing them out with a smile, my eyes full of mirth. I asked everyone to gather here today, not just to reminisce about old times, but actually to invite everyone to attend a fashion show I've been preparing for a long time. Hearing this, even Professor Williams showed a shocked expression. A fashion show in Milan? Then I definitely must go and properly review the results. My roommates also started screaming with excitement. "When is it? If I apply for a visa now, I should still make it in time, right? Ethan, we want VIP seats." Hearing everyone's enthusiastic voices, genuinely happy for me. My heart warmed. This fashion show was hosted by my mentor in Milan, and because of my 3 years of hard work, I had achieved remarkable results. So I earned the opportunity to showcase my own works at this exhibition. This was also my first time on such a grand stage, so I felt it was necessary to share this precious platform with all the people who truly cherished me, and the people I invited didn't disappoint my expectations. On the agreed date, they all came to the airport together. Not one was missing, carrying hopes and expectations for the future. I boarded this flight with everyone that might open a new chapter of my life. Before departure, I turned back one last time to look around. Outside the boarding gate, I saw a very familiar figure. It was Grace, but my gaze didn't linger on her, because I knew she didn't have the credentials to enter Milan, nor would she ever again possess an entry ticket to my life. We were just two strangers, about to pass by each other in the vast sea of humanity.